Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Learn with Jason. Today on the show, we're going to be digging into a more practical project than usual. A lot of times on this show, we will kind of go, hello world. And today we're actually going to work on something that I'm actively working on, which is the next iteration of the Learn with Jason site. And to do that, we're going to be digging into a specific feature that I need. And I've brought along a friend who is an expert in that. So please welcome to the stage, Darius Cepulis. Darius, how you doing?
What's going on? Doing well. How about you?
I'm doing great. I'm happy you're here because, and not just because I'm stuck on a technical problem and I need someone to bail me out, but but also because I think that this area of tech, which I have not introduced yet, unless you know the title of the video. I think this area of tech is sort of underexplored because we kind of, as a community, sort of ceded this whole ground, in my mind, to like a handful of small players. But before we talk about that, I want to talk a little bit about you. So for folks who aren't familiar with you and your work, can you give us a bit of a background on yourself?
Yeah, I'm Darius Cepulis. I am currently a senior community engineer at Mux. And I kind of stumbled my way upwards into this. I went to school for computer engineering. I thought I was going to do hardware, like super got into like digital design and everything. I was going to be the engineer who like built the next whatever processor. And then I went to my internships. I was at BMW, I was at Bosch, and I was in these hardware positions. Had a lot of fun there. And like as a side project at Bosch, I built like a web app to visualize some sensor data. Fast forward a couple years, I leave school, I'm looking for a job, and I'm applying to all these embedded software engineers, and like nobody's biting. You know, it's jobs out of school. And then out of nowhere, somebody emails me and says, "Hey, do you want to be our web developer? We saw your intern project." And I'm like, "I need a job."
Huh.
Sure. And I start web development, and it's amazing. It's I mean, everything that I'm sure you and our viewers know and love about web development. There's just like, in addition to being a lot easier than embedded systems and everything, there's also like this really tangible like interaction with users. And then I realized that like the parts of my internship that I liked the most were interacting with users and everything.
Okay.
Fast forward another couple years, I'm a web developer at Mux, and I'm writing blog posts and stuff. And they're like, "Hey, you're pretty good at this blog post stuff. Maybe you should be a community engineer as well." So here I am, try to be an embedded systems engineer, and next thing I know, I'm writing blog posts and doing videos.
You know, I think that's I like that as a career strategy too, because it sort of plays into the you start out with a plan, but then you're willing to make adjustments as you learn more, right? Because I think I've met a few folks who decided they were going to do things a certain way, and they stuck to it no matter what. And I think that can sort of leave you feeling boxed into like, well, I committed to this, and so I'm going to do it no matter what. But along the way, if you notice that, well, I thought I wanted this, but this was really fun too, so I want to explore that a little bit, and you find out that you end up somewhere completely different than you had planned,
Yeah.
but also you're happy because you're doing things that were based on new input, new information. Okay, so I love that. I love that so much. Okay, so what I want to talk about is, well, let's talk a little bit in the abstract before we get into the specifics of what I'm trying to do, and let's talk about video on the web. Right. And so I remember back in, because I've been building for the web for a long time now, over 20 years. And I remember at the beginning when you had video, you just didn't. It was like easier to not do video than to try to figure out how video would work. And I remember that we saw very early on sites would emerge that were kind of built for video, like eBaum's World was at a point in time when you could watch every video that was on the internet. eBaum's World was probably where that video was hosted. And then later, in a kind of explosion of popularity and growth, YouTube came onto the scene and became like the de facto standard for consumers uploading video. And then we started to see the kind of business side of things. We saw Vimeo enter. We saw, what's the other one? It's got a W name.
I think you have Wistia.
Wistia, that's the one I was thinking of. And a couple others. And then we see the really low level stuff, like there's AWS services for video, and you can always like throw it up on S3 or something. But it felt to me like we sort of as an industry just kind of threw up our hands and said, well, if I'm not going to throw it on Vimeo or Wistia, I'm just going to throw it on YouTube, and I'm just going to leave it. So What, do you have any kind of hunches or theories as to why video has been, why we've kind of just unanimously outsourced this to other people?
Yeah, boy, do I. Uh, Video is deceptively hard. And I think that there are two kinds of developers in this world: the ones who don't realize it and the ones who haven't, who do. And both the developers, I think, their first thoughts are, well, I know YouTube does video. Why don't I just toss it up there?
Mhm.
YouTube's free and it hides all this complexity from you, and you can just embed it. And that's super great. And if you don't know how complex it is, you're blissfully ignorant, and YouTube does it all. And if you do know how complex it is, it's honestly a relief to have YouTube do it for you.
Right. And so then kind of digging into that a little bit more, what is it, I guess, is it too hard to run video yourself? Because you say it's deceptively hard. And I know that as I've dug into it in the past, I remember finding things like, one was just bandwidth costs. Like if I self-host a video on my hosting platform, my bandwidth usage goes way up if anybody watches that video, because I've uploaded it in 4K because I shot it in 4K. I want people to see it full quality. And so now every time somebody loads my website, they're downloading my 5-minute 4K video, which is like gigabytes of video, and they might not even hit play, right? It just starts preloading in the background, but I'm burning bandwidth to do that. Or, we have things like if I open it on my phone doesn't need a 4K multi-gigabyte video. It could probably use a smaller one, but I don't know how to make that happen. So now I'm kind of like, well, I guess I'll just serve the big one, right? And that's before we get into things like the default controls with the HTML web video element. Like, in video in HTML seems like it's gotten a lot better. But it's still, the controls are fairly basic. When you start customizing things, it gets hard. It doesn't have a lot of the features that you expect when you watch Netflix or YouTube or any of those things, where I don't know how to add chapters. I don't know how to put in markers, or like if you hover over the timeline, I can't see like where I am in the video to get a rough sense of what I'm about to skip to. All of that stuff is stuff that I've just kind of come to expect from a video service. And so it all kind of drives me toward like, yeah, well, why wouldn't I put it up on YouTube?
Yeah.
But then I have these other needs, these other questions. And for example, I really like the idea of making video not depend on a third party. So I like putting all of my video up on YouTube, where YouTube has content policies that at some point they might just decide arbitrarily that dudes with beards aren't allowed on the platform, and they delete all my stuff. And I signed the user agreements, which says they're allowed to change the rules at any point, and all of my work is gone, right? And that makes me nervous when I'm in a position where this video is a huge part of my business. This is what I do, right? And if I were to lose that work, or if I were to lose my YouTube channel, does that mean I'm finished as a business person? So there's that part of me that really likes the idea of owning my presence. Like, if I want to put video somewhere, I want to put it on my site. I want it to live on the Learn with Jason site, so that, like, obviously there's still terms of service with everything, because your hosting platform and your assets managers and all, they all have like fair use policies, and like, I can't copyright infringe, I can't put up hate speech, all that kind of stuff. It's just governed by law. But like, AWS isn't gonna suddenly decide that you can't have a beard, right? Or that you can't say certain words that they've decided are too inflammatory for their general algorithm. Like, it's my content. I can decide what goes on my content. So all of this is me taking a very long time to get to a general question, which is, if you find a good reason, or what is a good reason to take on the burden of like managing video on your own?
Yeah, what you just described is, I think, something that a lot of folks who use YouTube run into. Like, even I was creating portfolio websites when looking for a job, and I wanted to put a video up, and I didn't want the YouTube embed. The YouTube embed is kind of heavy. And then, this is just for a hobby project, but anybody with a small business all of a sudden starts having concerns of not only what you described, like, gee whiz, YouTube's content policies and stuff like that. It's all in somebody else's hands. Or like, is YouTube training Gemini on my video? Or
Yeah.
especially like the legitimate concern of at the end of your video, you get a whole bunch of YouTube recommendations that pop over. And then all of a sudden you have users leaving your site. YouTube is a really good solution for a lot of people, but really quickly developers kind of run into this, like, there is some sort of reason that I want to leave. And that is, that's where the difficulties begin, because if they are overconfident developers like I am, or like so many others are, they're like, well, why don't I just host this MP4? And then they're running into bandwidth bills. I'm like, well, darn, I need to start making renditions. Why don't I break down this rendition to 720p, 480p, and then send like the smaller renditions to mobile? Well, then it's still downloading like the whole video. It's like, well, now I need to break it up into chunks. And then you need to start thinking, it just, thing after thing after thing comes up in the infrastructure side. And then you've got the player side. Well, now if I don't have YouTube's player, I've got to make my own player. Am I going to do like the little timeline hover previews? How am I going to do all these controls? How am I going to maintain accessibility? Just like there's this huge glacier of problems underneath the video that, I mean, back to your original question, drives a lot of people to YouTube. But if YouTube's not an option, then what?
Well, and I think like, you know, I think the major challenge is always finding the right balance, because, you know, like, I don't think I'll ever stop using YouTube, because I think it's a great place for distribution. It's a great way to share something. People are already there. If they watch your stuff, they'll see more of your stuff later, assuming they like it. And that to me it's a good place to be.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't necessarily want to build my entire platform on YouTube, because there are things that I want to do. For example, in the new version of the site, I want to allow people to become supporters of the channel, you know, sort of a Patreon model. But the way I want that to work is I want to follow in the footsteps of platforms like Nebula and Dropout, where if you're a subscriber, you can actually see stuff early before it goes public. Yeah. And that's sort of one of the incentives to do the thing. And to me, that's really exciting, because it provides a way to create a tangible benefit that doesn't put you on the hook as a creator, which is one of the things that I've always been really concerned about with like paid tiers and stuff. So I don't have the bandwidth to like make a whole second suite of content for paid folks. Like, I'm barely able to get the content that I get out now. If I do a paid tier, that really helps me cover the cost of producing stuff, but I don't have the ability to like suddenly create 2 times as much content to give people who are subscribed a whole bunch of bonus content. But for me to do that, like, YouTube has a way that you can become a paid member, and then that lets you see things on YouTube. But then, like, not everybody watches my stuff on YouTube. A lot of people right now, I would say probably the majority of folks are on Twitch right now. You can see, like, here's one of the Vinnies on Twitch. So the Twitch people, if they want to subscribe, they wouldn't get access to the YouTube like early access. And so it starts to create these really complicated problems where it's like, well, am I really going to just say like, you have to subscribe to me on multiple platforms? And when you subscribe to me on those multiple platforms, each of those platforms is taking 50% or more of the amount that you wanted to contribute so that I could build bigger and better videos, all of which has led me to, I think, the core dilemma that I have, and the reason that I'm thinking of starting to self-host video on learnwithjason.dev, which is one, what I talked about earlier with being able to own my content on the internet and have a place that is mine instead of sending all traffic through to YouTube. And two is this membership thing. I want people to be able to have a centralized membership, and I can always write custom code that says, if you are a Twitch subscriber, you get the access that a website paid member would get. But I can't do that on YouTube, right? So now that leads me to the subject in the best, how long did this take me? 14-minute segue I've ever given. How can I host my own video and make it so that only people who are logged in and with a valid subscription are able to view it for a limited period of time?
Well, boy, am I glad you asked, Jason. You might have heard at the beginning I mentioned I'm from Mux. I'm a community engineer at Mux, and I am super happy to talk about how Mux solves so many of these problems you just didn't even realize you had. Mux is a video API for developers. We solve a lot of the things that I talked about. We create those renditions. We handle content distribution. We have a player. We have stuff like that. Just a whole bunch of stuff, which lets you focus on what you want to focus on, your business concerns, your Twitch integration, your really nice website. And then once you have video problems, you come to us. And we've got a couple different ways that you can handle authenticated video. From, you know, the basic form is going to be just like hiding the link behind an auth, but then what about link sharing? Then we have signed URLs, but then like what about you know, the problems go on, and I'm excited to get into them in the next the rest of the stream.
Absolutely. Okay. So in the interest of just like, you know what, I could talk about this in the abstract forever. So
yeah.
I'm going to stop myself from doing that. And let's go through these, and we'll talk about stuff as it comes up. So let's get in here and actually do some coding. So I'm going to switch us over into this view here. I'm then going to, you want to see something cool? I switched over to Raycast.
No way.
I had previously been using, it's very good, but it's super low level. It's called Yabai, and it's a window manager that requires you to like turn off system integrity checks for your Mac in order to let it like manage Windows and stuff. And it's cool, but it's all like keyboard. I kept breaking it. And so then the Raycast team was like, you know, we do that, right? And I was like, okay, let me try this. And so I was like, oh my God, everything that I wanted, anyways, you should, if you like me want to be able to manage your Windows very well, this stuff in Raycast is dope. Anyways, that's not what we're talking about today. Let's talk a little bit about our sponsor today. We've got Netlify pitching in to make this show more accessible to everybody else, because we have Vanessa here in the here with us today doing our live captioning. I'm going to scroll the link down along the bottom if you want to head over there if you need those captions. And then also I start like, so the origin of this episode is actually fun because I started bothering the Mux team because I had these questions, and I was like, here's what I'm trying to do. Here's why I'm stuck. Here's what I'm worried about. Here's all the reasons that I want to do it the way I want to do it. And it turned into, it was like, you know what? Why don't we just do an episode on this? Because there's so many of these questions that are relevant to more than just your project. And so thank you to Mux for actually choosing to sponsor this episode. We are talking to Darius. You should go follow Darius on Twitter. Make sure you go and do that. And we're talking about Mux. So let's do that. Let's just dive into it, right? So Darius, if I want to get video on my site protected by auth, what's my first step?
Yeah. So your sentence, get video protected by auth. Step one, let's get video on your site. A great place to start for that is the docs, which you'll find up top underneath docs and tools. One thing that is absolutely our pride and joy at Mux is that we think of docs as like a product, like just really top to bottom, inside and out. We really care deeply because we know if we're building for developers have to spend a lot of time on our docs. And so like we're gonna like these docs will take you from like the very beginning of like not understanding video to like integrating stuff into your site. I was thinking though, maybe because I'm here, we can skip some of the docs, at least getting video on your site so that we can jump to the juicy stuff with auth.
Yeah, so let me actually, I might have a bit of a turkey in the oven here. So let me start this running. I have been working on a new version of the Learn with Jason site, and this site still has, it is not quite styled yet, but what I have is I'm trying to show series-based stuff. And so I have a collection of series. We have things like I've got the Web Dev Challenge. I've got this little short run of videos I call Do It Anyways. And that one I've actually uploaded some videos on. And then when you click into a series, you get kind of an overview of it. And then you get a list of the episodes in the series. And eventually, if I make a second season, it'll have a season picker and all those good things. But then if we dive into one of these videos, I have done the absolute bare minimum of setting up a Mux player. And I will show you what I've done here. So in fact, I should have, you know what? You told me beforehand to get into my Mux dashboard, and I just didn't do it. So bear with me for just, oh, good. I'm still logged in. Great.
Nice. That's great.
So let's maximize again. And I have my assets here. And you can kind of see, like, this is the video that I was talking about. So this is the one that we're looking at right now. And I uploaded it to Mux. And that's all I did. I went to this section of the, what was it here? Create a new asset. I went here, I clicked this button, and I dragged a video in. That's all I did on Mux. And then on this side, I went to the, what is it at? The episode. And so I'm getting the, we're running an API call to get the video and everything. And then for the episode itself, where's the video player? Here's my video player. We drop in the episode details, and I get a playback ID, which is the Mux playback ID here. It's a playback ID. And then I use the Mux player, and this is literally all the code that I have. I installed this package, and I've copy pasted this code out of the docs. So that's where I'm at right now, is that I have assets in Mux. I've used the web component Mux player, and I have it pulling a playback ID out of my AstroDB storage.
Nice. That's a fantastic start. Yeah, you've uploaded some video. And that's the thing, like Mux is an API. So you saw when you said create asset, we were giving you like API calls that you can build. So you can build yourself a big admin dashboard. You can upload everything in a nice way. Or honestly, you can just upload stuff in our dashboard and copy paste it out to your own little database, which is what you did there. So this is like, we're trying to teach you how to use the API, but also if you just want to do it the way that you did it, like absolutely fantastic. So you've got your database, you've got a list of videos. The next question is, how do we authenticate videos, right?
Right.
So do you want to build, yeah.
So the way that I'd like for this to work is on pages, like let's say we go into the Web Dev Challenge. Season 1, episode 2 is out, episode 1 is out, episode 3 is coming. And when episode 3 comes out, what I would like to do is list it here for a week behind login. So you have to be a member to watch it. And then at the end of that, after that week, it'll go live on YouTube and it'll become public on this site. That's the flow that I want. And how that ends up working in here is like once you get logged in, you have your profile. And so you can, I've got it set up where like there's a subscription, you go into Stripe and you can choose whatever plan you want. We've got our, the Boop enthusiast, the Boop connoisseur, et cetera. You choose one of those. And then once you are back on the site, you can see which level you're currently at. And in this case, I am subscribed, so I should be able to see the content. And we'll be able to, I've got this is all in test mode. So we'll be able to go in today and like make sure that we can see it and then cancel my subscription and then make sure that we can't, and go through all that. This all runs through Stripe. The login itself runs through Clerk, and that is all running. And that's the way that I kind of want, that's how I want this to function. So the piece that I'm missing is when I've got a logged in user, when I've got a subscription and I know whether the subscription is active or not, and I've got video assets, how do I actually start plugging all that together so that the Mux player is aware of like whether or not an asset is available to watch? Because like I figured I could hack this together, but I didn't want to. I feel like this should be done for me.
Yeah, we can absolutely help you with that. So the first thing that you might have considered doing, and honestly, this is not a horrible idea for a lot of cases, is just adding a little conditional there on your server saying, if the user's logged in, show them this video. If they're not, don't show them the video. And then the same thing on the playback page. If the user's logged in, load the playback page. If the user's not logged in, give them like a 404 or a 403. Jason, this is a quiz. Do you see any concerns, any problems with that?
I mean, so I think if I was very, very careful with my data, then I could make it so that nobody knows the asset ID, and so theoretically I could hide it. But the part I would worry about is that if somebody has the asset ID, then all they need to do is watch it.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, like, head into any of your playback pages, and let's take a look at your web inspector really quick.
See, I only have videos on like a couple of these.
Yeah, this is totally great. This will do. And if you go into your web inspector, check out Mux Player, you can see you can see that there is,
like, this is the asset ID, I assume.
Right. This is Mux video. Oh yeah, there you go, Mux video. You see source stream.mux.com. Like, there's a link that you can share. You can like literally plop that anywhere, and anybody can watch that video. The unfortunate thing about the web, and the fortunate thing about the web, is that it's, even if it's closed source, it's open source. People can always like inspect and grab links and throw it into like YouTube DL and grab your link, right? So we need a way to lock the video, and we need a way to only give keys to authorized users, so that only those authorized users can unlock the video, right?
Right.
To do that, we've got a nice basic solution which applies to a lot of cases. It's called signed URLs.
Okay. And so signed URLs, somebody was saying earlier that it sounds like, let's see, where's the comment? Sounds like S3, right? Because that's where I first became aware of the concept of signed URLs.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, signed URLs. And signed URLs have a couple features that I think we'll get into. But I think the basic idea of signed URLs is the video is locked, and then you hand out keys to users. And then we can put some conditions on those keys. Like, for example, the key only works. There we go. Like, for example, the key only works for 1 day or 1 week or something like that.
Sure.
And there's some more advanced conditions. Like, for example, the key only works if you're using it on learnwithjason.com.
Right.
Yeah. Let's do it, I say.
Yeah, let's do it. So from an abstract point of view, what we're going to do is we're going to generate a different URL that, well, I'm not going to get into the specific, like, we're going to deliver something special to the browser that doesn't actually work out of the gate. And then I, as a user, have to ask for a key by passing in my credentials that say I'm allowed to watch this thing. And then I assume I send it as a cookie or a header or something that that then when Mux receives that, it uses my credentials to like validate that the video can play back.
It might be a little less fancy than that, actually.
Oh no, that's actually perfect.
Yeah.
Like, I like it when it's not complicated.
Yeah. With signed URLs, we will give you a locked video, and then it's up to you to give your user the key to unlock that video.
Okay.
So step 1, we're going to create a locked video, and step 2, we're going to create the key which you give to your user.
Okay, perfect. Let's do it.
Yeah. So I think we can maybe create a locked video in your dashboard. That'll be the easiest way to do this.
Okay. So
do you have any video files handy on your computer? If not, we can use the placeholder video that's in the dashboard.
I mean, I almost certainly have a million videos on my computer. Let's see if I've got any that aren't giant. What do I have? Here's one that I did that was, this is like a 341 megabytes. Yeah, we can manage that. This is talking about BenQ's screen bar Halo, which I'm still using today and enjoy. Okay, so I've got it, and I'm going to create a new asset.
So this is something that you can do to existing assets, but I decided to create a new asset just because it'll be easier to visualize with our dashboard here.
Okay.
So step 1, choose an encoding tier. We've got 2 different encoding tiers, baseline and smart. Baseline is more economical, it's slightly lower quality, and is missing some features like MP4 renditions. But I mean, depending on a certain business model, you might use that. In your case, though, you probably want higher quality videos because code is, super you want the sharp code and stuff like that, and you're not uploading a lot of videos. So I think Smart's going to make sense. Max resolution, if you don't want to spend a lot of money distributing 4K, because 4K is expensive either way, no way you cut it.
Right.
And then generated captions. Behind the scenes, we've got OpenAI's Whisper model generating captions. It's super exciting. So we can leave those at default, whatever boats your float. And then upload a video. Okay. So what we're doing here is creating a locked video. It's going to be as easy as changing line 4 from public to signed. And let's go ahead and do it in the direct upload.
I'm sorry. I just realized these are editable.
Whoa.
I thought that this was like, hey, copy paste this so that you can run this in your own terminal. This isn't. Oh my God, I love that. Okay.
Yeah, right.
So we're gonna change this to signed.
And what we're doing
I'm gonna
here
upload directly.
is,
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Run request. That'll create a direct upload, and then we're going to upload that video to that direct upload.
Okay. And that was it was the BenQ one, which is somewhere out here. Here.
Nice.
That should upload fast. Let's see. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, and like I
so-
said, you can do this to existing videos too. Right now, all of your existing videos are public. They have what we call public playback IDs, and you can go ahead and create an API or like make an API request to Mux and say, "Hey Mux, take that one video that's public and also give it a signed playback ID." So you can have public playback IDs for certain users, like for example, after the video goes public, and then you can use signed URLs for the pre-release section. So that we wouldn't
that's
have
actually
to,
going to be important to me because I need to switch it over after a week, right? So
Yeah.
Can I just put both in here? Like I can say
Signed, comma, public, yeah.
and it would just give me both.
Yeah, in production, that's like in all likelihood, that's what you're going to be doing. And then you're going to keep the signed URL, only use that for the pre-release period, and then switch to the public URL.
Got it.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. No, that's great because that was actually like I was worried that was going to be a complicated piece where I didn't want to have to upload videos twice or something. So that's wonderful.
Yeah. We're just going to keep this nice and simple though, and just kind of make sure that one video is locked in one way. This will kind of make the code a little bit easier, I think, to understand. Nice.
Okay.
Got it.
So we've uploaded our asset and I have an asset ID. We've got playback policies. We've got all the things we need here. So then I view the asset.
And notice that not even the dashboard can play it because the video is locked and the dashboard doesn't have the keys to unlock it.
Fascinating. Okay.
Yeah.
So then this is my asset ID. So I'm going to copy
Playback ID,
this.
which is confusingly
playback
different.
Yes. And playback is the one, like this is the one we need to use the Mux player on the website. This one up here is like if I'm going to make API calls.
Exactly. Yeah.
Got it.
And the reason we have those things separate is because of what I said. One asset ID can have multiple playback IDs. In this case, your playback ID is signed. You can also have a public playback ID, so you'll keep, multiple playback IDs that have multiple permissions and structures like that.
Okay. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to just so I'm using AstroDB so I can just kind of like auto create generate UUIDs.
What?
Yeah.
Raycast is
This Raycast stuff is so dope. Like I don't know why, but I'm like really resistant to new anything. And so I was like,
it works, right?
yeah, but I was like, nah, no new tools. And then I installed this and I was like, I am a fool. I should have used this so long ago. So I'm just gonna do that, and then this one will be keep it simple. If I can type. YouTube ID I'm not gonna have, and then this playback ID is gonna be this one here. All right, and then I'll probably just leave the thumbnail because I'm not gonna bother with that.
And you'll probably want some way in your database to identify this as a pre-release video.
That's true, isn't it? Okay. So why don't we do that real quick? We'll do in the config, we'll have a resource relationship, and that's going to series episode field. So the episode fields, we're going to include one that says pre-release, and that's going to be a Boolean. And we'll default it to false so that I don't accidentally break everything else in the site. Okay, so then we get back out to my seed, and we're going to say pre-release is true. Okay.
Yeah. I can imagine in production, what you'll probably end up doing is having like pre-release playback ID and then playback ID and like a release date field, stuff like that. If you want, we can work through that complexity here, or, you know, that's kind of up to you.
I think the DB admin stuff is probably less important than getting.
I don't know. Database schemas are what get me out of bed in the morning.
I mean, I do love a good database schema, but probably, is this the one I'm trying to match? Okay, so 7928. I'm basically just copying these so that I can fake an entry here. And that will put this into the web dev challenge so that we can actually go watch it. Okay, so then if I come back out here and we go to the series, we go to the web dev challenge, and now we have the BenQ screen bar halo. We come in here and it's busted.
Fantastic.
This one still works though. Okay, so we're in business.
Cool. Yeah. So I think we wanted to do two things here. We wanted to only show it in the list if your user has a subscription, and then we wanted to be able to play the video if the user has a subscription, right?
So let's maybe. So I think what I'd want to do is I would want to show it as like in preview. So that's more going to be like a styling thing. Because I think like long term, which is kind of out of the scope of what we're trying to do today, I would want to show it as members only preview, and you can click in, and if you click in, you'll be able to see like instead of the playback window, you would say like this episode is only available to members. It will be publicly released on date. If you want to watch it now, click here to subscribe. Would be kind of the way to set that up.
Yeah.
So we can keep it in the list, and then let's just work on the episode page.
Cool. Where do you get the images for that list, by the way? Are those coming from Mux, or are you doing those yourself?
These images are, that's a great question. I am putting those images in my database, and they are coming from Cloudinary. So I'm throwing image assets in Cloudinary, video assets in Mux, and because I've used Cloudinary forever for like all of my image assets.
Super great product.
But so, yeah, I did look. I saw that you had support for thumbnails and like making animated GIFs and all that kind of stuff, and that got me thinking about. I saw you had like a clipping API. I was like, oh no, we're going to be able to make a mess with this. Like, this is going to be great. What's up, Shruti? Okay, so we have a protected playback ID and a pre-release, and yeah, like you said, what I'm probably going to end up doing is having a videos thing. Like it'll actually just be videos, and that'll be an array, and then we'll have like the YouTube version, we'll have the public version and the signed version, so that I can sort of make choices based on time and settings. But for now, this is good enough, and I'm gonna leave a note in here. Set up for handling public and private IDs.
And to me, this is I was a Mux user before I joined Mux, so if I sound like a fanatic, it's not just because I'm paid to be. This is like what I like about Mux. Like we spend like, I don't know, 30 seconds on that dashboard, most of it waiting for the upload to go, and the rest is like, it's kind of all your problem, which is, I mean, like maybe in our case, it's like flexibility. We can make decisions about how we want to serve videos. We can make decisions about how we want to display them and everything. It's you as a developer get to focus on what you want to develop.
And here's where I think this is one of those like it depends scenarios, right? Because in a lot of cases, what developers are looking for is take all of this control away from me because I don't want to have to think about it. I think that's why people like Clerk, for example. Clerk is sign up for this account, and drop this
Drop in
React
a
component
component.
in, and we've handled the rest for you.
Good. Yeah, yeah.
When you have a use case, when like in video, if I just want a video and I want it to be default, I'm just going to upload it to YouTube, right? But when I come to Mux, I'm coming to Mux because I have a very specific, very like, I've designed a flow and I need it to work that way. And so if you started taking control away from me, it makes the tool harder to use. And
Exactly.
so when I'm coming to you with a very specific use case and you say, here are all the components, you do whatever you want with these. The only thing we're going to provide is like, oh, you need the MP4, here you go. You need an animated GIF, here you go. You need the streaming, like the HLS, what is that what it's called, HLS? The streaming stuff so that you can like do adaptive bit rates, here you go. But we're not going to tell you that you have to use this language or that language or do it exactly like this. It's kind of like, here's a box of tools. You have a vision, like make it happen.
Yeah, yeah. We do the video, you do the rest. And of course, we'll help you along the way. That's the hope, at least. So we're on the video watch
and
page
I think
here,
it points more to like treating the docs as a product, because if you're not building like an SDK, like a full like UI SDK, then the docs are that, right? Like as a dev, if I'm not dropping in a component, I need to have really clear guidance on what all the different components are and how I can use them together. And I think that's, again, like that is something that Mux has excelled at.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Speaking of SDK, though, we do indeed have some SDKs. Not necessarily, I mean, UI SDKs. We've got Mux Player and stuff, but here we're going to use the API SDK. For the next part, we have a locked video. We need to give keys to the users, and we're going to make those keys using the Mux Node SDK.
Okay.
So, if you can, I'd love for you to npm install that, or yarn, or pnpm.
Mux, is it like at Mux?
Yeah,
node?
at Mux/Mux-node.
Mux-node. Okay.
Yeah. Any API call you can make to Mux, you can make using Mux Node as well. In fact, I think I can't remember the last time I made an API call in terminal or anything. I think I just do everything through Mux Node because I'm a web developer. I just want web developer stuff to do web developer stuff.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same. Like I can write a curl command, but I'm way faster at just like throwing together a junk page that I can fetch on.
Yeah. So the way that we handle unlocking videos is with JWTs, which I recently learned people pronounce jot, which is
I don't know
wrong. I appreciate that they think that, but no.
If you go phonetically, though, it should be jwt.
Oh no, like Vite, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so so we're gonna create a jwt.
Exactly. So you could use any old jwt signing library that you want, but I think that we should use Mux Node instead because it makes it a little bit easier than dealing with any sort of JWT signing. And in that JWT, we're going to add some information. We're going to,
What am I importing something, or are we just talking through it right now?
Let's get started. Import the default import. Import it as like uppercase M Mux, maybe. Import Mux from Mux Node. Nice. And we're going to use this to create that JWT. So let's create an instance of the client. Mux equals new Mux. And then, so in most Node environments, this would automatically pick up on your environment variables. But because Astra uses Vite under the hood, and Vite doesn't use process.env, you've got to pass the tokens yourself. So we're going to pass an object with some tokens.
There it is. Oh my God.
So the client needs to know how to make authenticated requests to Mux. So the first things you need to pass are the token ID and the token secret. And these are just your Mux credentials. So however you have those in token ID, token secret.
And that's going to be import.meta.env, and we'll call it Mux token ID.
Yeah.
And then the other one was token
secret.
So import.meta.
Oh my gosh, we recently moved over to these really nice auto-generated SDKs. The TypeScript is so good. Like I barely open the API reference anymore because it's just like all there.
So is there anything else that I need in here right now?
There is. Okay, so we talked about how the video is locked, and we talked about how you're going to create keys for your users. You actually need a key in order to create keys for the users. So the key to create the key, and that's your JWT signing key and JWT private key. So these you're going to create in your dashboard. I think you've already
It should
pre-created
just
them,
be-
right?
So I recreated a key ID and a private key. I will need to add them to my
Environment.
my environment, which I'll do momentarily. And much to the Vinny's chagrin, it's going to be done off screen. This was secret.
Yep. JWT private key.
Oh, JWT private key.
Yeah.
Okay. Get private. Privage.
Privage. And you know what you could
Okay.
do? I think that we could do this without leaking anything. You can actually go into the Mux dashboard and we can show them how these signing keys are created.
How fast are these to roll if I leak?
You can hit a delete key immediately in the dashboard.
Perfect. Let's do it then. All right, so I'm going into settings.
Dashboard.mux.com, and then if you hover over settings, you can go into signing keys.
Here we go. Okay, and we're in development, I think. Or wait, have I been working in production? Did I not create any keys?
You promised me you created a key.
I did create
There it is.
keys.
It's in
Okay,
DRM.
so I created them in this environment.
Yeah, so the key that you create has to match the environment that you uploaded the video into. So
I
wherever
do
we
think
uploaded the video
right now we're currently working in the production environment. So why don't I create a key for the production environment, and then we will upload into the DRM testing environment so that I have that when
once we get to DRM.
Yeah. Okay. So let's generate a new key.
Oh, this is going to happen on screen actually.
Oh, well, now you tell me.
Okay, so what I figured was we were going to
to
create one and then immediately delete it because you already created
Here we
another
go.
one.
We're deleting
go
this
ahead
one.
and delete that.
All right, now let me.
Okay, so this one you should probably create off screen.
Yeah,
and
let
then
me
go ahead
create
and
a new
save
one
it.
here.
And then for anybody who wants to create it, just do exactly what Jason did, except for deleting at the end.
And not showing everybody on your
I've
stream.
got the very first live stream that I did at Mux. I did with my wonderful coworker Dave Kiss. I want to say like 15 minutes into the stream, I put up my entire environment, production environment for like Mux.com with like keys to every single service. We've got Algolia keys, we've got Mux keys, just everything up and down. And my face just drops. I go pale and I say, oh no. And then I pretend it doesn't happen and we keep going as like in the background, I'm like deleting keys and everything. We end up taking the video down off YouTube immediately, obviously, and rotate all our keys. But I've been very sensitive about keys ever since.
That's always a hard day. So I've got my signing key, but while I'm in here, I'm going to get my access tokens as well. Because the two that we were using, to double check that I'm correct here, it's the token ID and the token secret.
And those are just your standard API access tokens. And they are specific to whatever environment you're using.
Okay, so let me get some production ones. And for permissions, I only need Mux Video, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
We're not doing anything with data. We're not like changing any system.
So there's my
permissions.
access token ID, which I'm going to put into the .env. And then the last one that I need is the secret key, which I will put in here, Mux secret or token secret.
That is the coolest keyboard I've ever seen.
The Moonlander it's one of those keyboards that like I got it because my my wrists were bothering me.
Yeah.
But I've still not like become a fast typer on it. I think I was like,
that learning curve's intense.
It was brutal. Okay, so I now have all of my stuff loading. Let me just double check this one more time before I bring everything up. .env jot signing key, jot private key, token ID, token secret. Jot signing key, jot private key, token ID, token secret. Okay, so let me close the .env and get us back on screen. All right.
Nice.
We're back in business, everybody.
Nailed
it. I have my keys saved. They are here. Let me close the terminal. And we're now, anything else I need to put in here?
You got it. You're allowed to talk to the API because of the token, and you're allowed to create JWTs, JWTs, because of because of the signing key and the private key. And if you're just talking to the API, obviously you don't need the signing key and the private key.
Okay.
Cool. So now what we want to do is say if the user is logged in, then we're going to generate a key.
Okay, so then I will be able to do it's user equals await astro locals.
And in Astro, everything in like the little code fences, the triple hyphens, that happens on the server, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the last thing we want to do is leak these keys to the client.
Right. Yeah, agreed. So let me
Cool.
just double check that I'm doing that right. Let's do a pre. Stringify, and then we're just going to drop the user in there. And what we should see out here is that the user gets dumped. Right. Okay, good. So yeah, I've got my user ID, all those things. And then what I have in here is I have my public metadata, and this is a clerk thing. So I can use API calls, like when the Stripe data changes, I write to the clerk API to update public metadata and set this this Stripe object to include, like, it's an active status, this is my Stripe customer number, this is my level, and then I use all of that for what I'm after. So what I can do then is in here, I can say const is subscriber, and we'll say user dot public metadata Stripe.
Oh, and you have types on that?
You get types up to the public metadata, and then it's
Okay.
I can go extend it if I want, I think, but I have not done that. And we're just going to go with a status of active. And I know it is, but can I make you stop yelling at me? I sure can. Hush you. Okay. So now we have the is subscriber, and let's just double check that before. Is subscriber true? Okay, great.
Nice.
So now we have that, and then we generate signing key.
Exactly. We're going to do this with the Mux client.
Okay.
So, oh, this is fun.
So can you talk me through sort of so I'm going to generate a key, and I assume that I'm going to make a call to Mux through this this client that we generated that's going to return my key, and then I take that key and I pass it into the Mux player, or are we doing something different with it?
Yeah, you'll be passing it into the Mux player. And in fact, it's not actually, this is just under the hood implementation. You don't really need to worry about this. But the client's not actually creating a call to Mux. One of the nice things about JWTs, JWTs, is that you don't need to call home every time you create one. Because you have a signing key, you can create an authenticated key. But that's just under the hood. You're going to use the client to create a key, which is all happening local. You're going to send that key to your user, and the user is going to, on the user side, you're going to stick it into Mux player. The Mux player is going to use it to play the video.
Okay.
Here's the, yeah, let's do this. So it's going to be mux.jwt sign playback ID. It's going to have two arguments. The first argument is going to be your playback ID, the signed playback ID.
And my playback ID, okay, so that's going to have to come first.
And the second argument is going to be the body of the playback, or of the JWT. So the first thing you need to tell it is what this key is for. So that's type is video. And the second, and this is your first line of security, is expiration. So the reason this is safe is because this JWT expires. So the realities of the internet means that your users can still go in and can still go to the video element and still grab that URL and still share that URL. The thing is, though, because this URL has an expiration, that will only work, like the URL will only work for a certain period of time. So if you have a 10-minute video, then maybe you should make an expiration that's like 11 minutes, 10 minutes to watch the video, and then 1 minute to like scrub around. And like how long the expiration is going to be kind of up to you and your business logic and needs.
And just so I'm clear, if we have a video, like let's say we've got a video that's 1 minute long, but I set the expiration for 30 seconds. Does that mean that when I hit play, 30 seconds in, the video will stop working?
Approximately, yeah. This key is being used to authenticate requests to Mux. And every time...
So every like streaming chunk that comes through is being authenticated. Okay.
Your players requesting chunks by chunks, and if the JWT is expired, then Mux is going to be like, sorry, no more chunks.
Got it. So then in my case, I would probably want it to be, you know, a solid like hour for a 10-minute video, because somebody might watch and then pause and take some notes, maybe scrub back so they can watch a section again and figure out what the code was doing. So, you know, and like, to be clear, I'm not worried about people showing these videos to other people. It's more of like, I want to have a tangible benefit for people who decide to support the channel monetarily. Right?
Yeah.
And so I don't want to make it hard for people to watch these videos. I just want it to have some kind of real benefit, a thing you can point to and say, this is what I get for my money.
Yeah, you're hitting on...
I get to make more videos.
Yeah, you're hitting on one of the kind of great tensions of stream security. And that is that the more secure you make your stream, the more hoops you are inadvertently making your user jump through. If you implement this perfectly, there's still problems of like, what if somebody stands up to get lunch and goes back? And you can solve some of this stuff. And in fact, the way that we see it often done is, you know, for a 1-minute video, you issue a 2-minute key. And then if the user is still on the page, then your page makes an API request and gets a new key. And so you're just like refreshing the key every 2 minutes.
If I have to do this next part by myself.
Chad,
are you still with me?
Oh no, I can hear you just fine.
Oh, there you go. There you're back now. All right.
Whoa, did you lose me?
We're gonna pretend that didn't happen. What's all right.
All right. What happened there? Where'd you lose me?
You were saying this is one of the big trade-offs of stream security is the more you add, the harder it is to use the videos.
Oh, that was a really good spiel. I hate that I have to give it again.
Sorry. Well, you know what? No, I mean, warm up round.
Yeah. Okay, so like users have to like jump through hoops whether or not you mean to. So like it's a trade-off inadvertently. And there are ways to mitigate this trade-off. For example, if you were to set your expiration at 2 minutes, then you can make a call in your front end to ask for a new JWT. And that way, like you've still got this level of security, and as long as your user is logged in, they can keep getting new keys. So that's if you really, and it's up to you. Or you can just set the expiration to be a year. You know, it kind of depends on what security you want.
Right. And if so as long as I set it long enough that somebody doesn't get interrupted while they're watching, you know, so you could do it for a day. You could do it for 12 hours, you know, and that seems like a perfectly reasonable amount, because at that point they'd probably reload the page if they were coming back, at which point they would generate a new key anyways, which would give them another 12 hours. So how is this set? I looked at the type didn't give me it says string or undefined.
Yeah, it's a, I don't even know what it's called, but it's the kind of like pseudo English. So in this case, if you're doing 1 hour, it'd be 1H. 1 day, 1D.
So why don't we do 1D? That's fine. So we'll make it a 1-day expiration. Any other settings here?
Nope, you got it. That is the video playback token. Okay. Some more considerations. Called the
video playback token.
Yeah, the video playback token. So I've given you the short story. There is actually a long story. So if you go ahead and say playback token and just pass the video playback token, you are most of the way there. Because of the way that the Mux API is structured, because of the way that like you might not, oh, that's interesting. I bet I know what that is. Let's walk through the other steps first, just to
okay.
Yeah, because so you're not always necessarily unlocking your video. Sometimes you just want to unlock your thumbnail. Sometimes you just want to unlock like your storyboard, stuff like that. So we actually ask that instead of passing one token, you pass multiple tokens to the player. We've created your video playback token, but what I hid from you is that we have to create two more. We have to create a thumbnail token and a storyboard token to make sure that the player has access to all the parts that it needs.
Got it. Okay.
And actually earlier I asked you, like, how do you create those thumbnails for your video overview page? If you were to use Mux to create those thumbnails, then you would just use a thumbnail token. That way the user gets the thumbnails but doesn't get the video and the storyboards. So there's some flexibility in exchange for a little bit of code overhead here.
Okay.
So yeah, if you just copy paste that 2 more times, we're going to do one for thumbnail and one for storyboard.
Okay.
Nice.
How do I pass these in?
Here you've got a playback token. You'll create 2 more. Storyboard token and thumbnail token. All right, now let's see if Mux player is still complaining. If it is, then I messed up and we did something wrong.
Oops. What was that? No. Cause the download to fail. Oh, I have it filtered. I was like, where is everything missing here?
There it is. 400.
Bad request.
Is this is the BenQ. This is the signed playback ID still, right? Yeah, it is.
Should be.
Object promise.
Oh, we have to await this.
That's my bad.
Is this awaited?
Yeah, you got to await it.
Okay.
I misled you.
It's okay. You know, this is how we learn. And
there
look
it
at
is.
it go, everyone. We
Fantastic.
have signed playback. Okay, so
One more condition here.
Go ahead.
This whole song and dance that we just did is only going to work on signed playback IDs. You should add a condition to your playback page saying, if this video is public, don't pass any tokens.
How do I do that?
In this case, you've got a thing in your database schema of like, is pre-release, right?
I do.
But you don't have access to that. You're passing everything through URL params, aren't you?
Well, I have it. We're passing in the playback ID and the title, so we will pass it in from here. And originally I was passing in the whole episode, and I had just decided to not do that. So I could always just do it again. And we'll say pre-release, and it will be fields.pre-release. And I think what I need to do then is update my, let's get this part, we'll get this part first, and then I'll go fix the rest of it. Pre-release, and that one's gonna live in here. Pre-release is Boolean, and we're gonna say, this, I can probably make this better, but we're gonna roll with this for now.
I've actually recently been like very anti fancy code. Like, it just get the basic conditional out. If it's legible, then it's probably good. And like the fancier it gets,
like,
less legible it gets.
We are definitely like hitting this with a hammer, but it is fine.
Yeah. This will totally work.
Then, we didn't do the check to see if they are a subscriber. So this would be like if is subscriber, right? And then we're gonna have to do this one.
Yeah. Or you can like create an object and like spread that object onto the player down in Astro. There's a couple different ways to do this.
That's a good idea. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Maybe that could be a good way to refactor this and clean it up. But we'll live with it for now. And if I can get, there we go. There's valid code. All right. So then this should be good now. That's
And the
valid
last thing that
TypeScript,
we
and now
might
we
want
have
to do,
now we have a file that's not fighting us. However, before I forget, I need to do
yeah,
one
yeah.
quick thing because I don't think we're currently getting the episode by slug. We're getting the fields. I think fields are just going to work then. I'm not sure if I'm getting that pre-release, so I just got to double check.
Oh, yeah.
Fields. And fields just comes through. Okay, this is going to be fine. So then theoretically speaking, this will just work. We've got this side is doing what we want. Let's go to the other one.
Nice. No errors.
And it just works. Okay, we did
And the
it.
last thing you'll probably want to build is if a user is not a subscriber, probably show them some sort of UI saying, hey, like, sorry, you need to join Jason to.
Yeah, I think that was what we were originally talking about doing, and then I didn't do it.
Because otherwise they're just going to get a player with an error in it, which, that's one way of communicating. It doesn't work.
Right. Okay, so then what we'll get here is this sucks.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe how much time? We don't have enough time. I want to get to the DRM stuff, so how about that? I'm going to leave myself a to-do for that. Show UI for unsubscribed people on pre-release. And that way, I'll come back to that because really that's just refactoring this to have another conditional that if they're a subscriber, show the Mux player. If not, show them a like, hey, you need to be subscribed for this. Nothing too wild here. But there was another whole piece that we wanted to look into, and we're just kind of coming up on time, so I want to make sure we have it.
Yeah. Let's do that real quick. So we have this relatively good strategy of the keys expire after a certain period of time, right? But some people want more. Some people want more security, and we've got kind of two ways to add more security. One, I'm going to wave my hands at really quick before we talk about DRM, and that is referrer restrictions and user agent restrictions. So this is kind of what I mentioned earlier. If you only want your video to work on learnwithjason.com, or if you only want your video to work for Chromecast and AirPlay or something like that, or if you only want your video to work on like Android phones or something like that, you can add those restrictions as well through Mux.
Okay.
We've got information about how to do that in the docs, actually. Yeah, and we'll scroll by those docs in a sec. Yeah, at the very bottom of the docs, scroll a little bit further, we've got a section called Access and Permissions. Yeah, secure video playback. So a section halfway down there, create optional playback restrictions for your Mux account environment.
Nice. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So like you definitely, like not definitely, but like something you might consider is creating a learn with JSON restriction and then attaching that to your JWT. So your JWT will contain that information.
Right. Yeah.
You can actually attach all sorts of information to your JWT. For example, like you can add your like user IDs or like session IDs to the JWT so that if the video gets leaked, you can like decode it and find out who leaked it. It depends on like what kind of level of security you want. Some people,
right.
Yeah,
I think that would make sense if you're doing something, like if you were running your own, like something sensitive, right? Like if you would set up your own kind of version of OnlyFans or something, it's really important if somebody's going to like leak your personal details that you can trace that back to its origin and you can protect yourself, right?
Yeah.
For me, I don't care because again, all I want is to provide people with a benefit for supporting the channel.
Exactly. Yeah.
But depending on your use case, like I can see huge reasons why that would be important. But I do like the idea of restricting it to the learnwithjason.dev domain so that it like the playback will work on the site, but it wouldn't work somewhere else.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that's great.
Yeah, and of course, not all devices send referrer headers. Like for example, if you built an iOS app or an Android app, those don't have referrer headers. So there's trade-offs. Like I said, with every single step, there's trade-offs. It's just nice to know that there are tools out there. The last tool that I think we should talk about, though, is DRM.
Yes.
And it looks like you just uploaded a video to your DRM environment.
I did to make sure that we have one. Yeah. So I'm going to
Nice.
go
I'm glad you did
in here and I'm going to go into my seed. This is the BenQ one. So I'm going to duplicate this if I can remember. Let's see this.
Oh, you know what? You uploaded it, but what did you see? I was talking. I wasn't paying enough attention. Did you change the playback policy?
I did. I set it to public and signed.
Ah, there's a third kind of playback policy.
Oh no. Okay. Can I just update it here, or is it like I should just upload it again?
We can make an API call to upload this to update this video. But if we don't want to set up the curl command and everything, we could just create a new asset.
Yeah, it uploaded fast enough. Let's just do it. So so we've got public, we've got signed, and then the third secret.
The third
thing.
Okay, this is a tricky part. Here, you're going to replace lines 3 through 5 with advanced playback policy.
Okay, like that.
Because DRM is an advanced playback policy and kind of requires a little bit more information.
Okay.
Sweet. Advanced playback policy, and advanced playback policy is going to be an object rather than an array.
Okay.
And in that object, we've got, I'm doing this off the top of my head because I straight up cannot find my notes. Whoa, what if we just use the docs? Actually, I think we should open the docs. Notion's being silly for me. Protect videos, the DRM.
Configure your account. We already did that.
Create an asset here.
DRM playback policy.
There's the advanced playback policy.
Why don't I do this?
Oh, it is an array, actually.
It is
it's an array of objects.
It is an array. And I'm going to bring that through to here. Okay, well, this is good. It's good that we looked at this then.
Nice. And the DRM configuration ID is something that I sent over before. And that is not a huge deal if you leak that.
So this one's okay to just put in here? Okay.
Sweet.
And I'll run that. Uploading a file. Here we go. And while that's happening, maybe let's talk about what is happening with DRM, because I feel like DRM is one of those things that got a really bad rap because most of us, well, okay, I'm about to date myself. Those of us who grew up in the Napster era may remember the huge issues that were happening where like everybody was stealing music. We were all like torrenting things. And then the drummer from Metallica decided to like fully light his reputation on fire by being like the DRM king. And so everybody who heard it, like I was introduced to DRM as like a bad thing introduced by businesses to stop people from having fun.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what it is. I mean, you can obviously like we can use it like that, but like what is it?
DRM is a way of making sure that the device you are using is allowed to play a certain type of video. And not allowed as in like this person is allowed, but rather allowed as in like this computer is a safe environment to play this video. And to understand what a safe environment is, maybe we should talk about what an unsafe environment is. Folks who want DRM on their content, for example, Hollywood studios, for example, creators who really don't want their videos downloaded, care a lot that a video is being played in a browser and not in some sort of terminal command that's downloading the video. The browser is a safe environment, that terminal command is not a safe environment, stuff like that. To guarantee to these content holders, for example, Hollywood studios, for example, creators who upload videos, that the video is not being downloaded in terminal or rebroadcasted on Twitch to another channel. Manufacturers have built hardware level kind of security that's called, as an umbrella term, DRM. So DRM is our way of promising the content owner, this is fine. You're playing this in a browser. This is not getting rebroadcasted to another Twitch channel. This is not getting downloaded on YouTube DL or anything like that. The video is playing where you expect it to be played. So you might have noticed DRM without even realizing you noticed DRM. Sometimes if I catch like a really good moment during Netflix show, I want to shoot a screenshot to my spouse. I take the screenshot and it's all black. That's DRM because the Netflix browser is a safe environment and the screenshot is not a safe environment. That's a standard example.
No public playback. I'm double checking because there was an issue. I typoed something and I'm just making sure. I don't know if it did the thing. Is there a place where you can see like the policy is DRM?
Yes. Why don't you? Okay, the first place that I know off the top of my head, I don't know if it's actually in the UI, although maybe it
Okay.
should be. DRM is in beta currently. We're accepting requests for access to that beta as well as feedback. The first place that I would check though is in your network activity. You can see that the dashboard's making calls to the Mux API. Probably check out like the XHR requests. Yeah. And then it's going to be one of the first requests. You can tell I'm a web developer at Mux because I'm looking at the network requests. And then looks like that one, which is the asset ID. Nice. Let's take a look at the payload. The preview. This is, yeah, data. Upload ID. And playback policies is going to be somewhere in there.
It is not because we
not.
screwed it up. So, okay. So that is what
or
went
it's
wrong.
somewhere else. And
then I uploaded the default one. So let's see if we can find it in here. So this is the
this is really easy. This is not normal Mux activity. This is hanging out with a Mux web developer.
Right. But so now we're kind of digging in here. Here's the playback
IDs, policy DRM.
It says
Nice.
policy DRM. So yeah, what I did was I screwed that up and typoed advanced playback policy when it should have been policies.
No, that's actually my bad. I think I told you policy.
Well, I wasn't going to throw you under the bus, but yeah, it was your fault.
And actually, if we head back to the dashboard, I bet I just threw our dashboard developers under the bus. I think it's, if you hit X there, playback and thumbnails, that middle
playback
tab.
and thumbnails.
Yeah, DRM. It is in the UI.
Oh, it shows up right there. Okay, perfect.
Wow, we overcomplicated
so mine didn't. No, that's not the one. This one.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I got confused.
Says nothing, 0 playback IDs because we screwed up.
Policy,
okay,
not policies.
Perfect.
Cool.
Okay, so that makes sense. So then let's just use this one because it's
nice.
Here and it works. This is the default one.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm realizing now that I also need to create, I think, access tokens. Okay, so I have those ready, but I need to create the access tokens, and these are the production
depending
ones.
on if you want to create this on screen or not.
Yeah, let me take that off screen real quick. I'm going to create one in the
currently,
DRM environment for video.
Yeah, DRM is in beta, and we encourage DRM users to create a separate testing environment to try out the new toys, just to make sure that like if anything goes wrong, it's not happening to your production environment. So before the stream, we had Jason create a new environment, and that is the source of some of our confusion because not all keys apply to all environments.
Okay,
this is on me.
Now what I'm doing is I'm just I'm taking all of my production environment ones and I'm swapping out for the non-production ones.
Yeah,
for the
so
DRM
we will be able to
ones.
view the DRM video and the DRM video only, and the rest.
Everything else will fail, and that is completely fine because that's what we expect to happen.
Yeah.
So now I'm just copying over my signing key and my private key, and the private key is a monster.
It sure is. And I think that's base 64 encoded too.
I think it is. Yeah, it looks.
It's even longer than
has the smell of that. Okay, so then that should be set, and then what I need to do then is let's go get the asset ID. Let me put this back up on screen. So now what I need to do is I need to go get the assets.
Stick it back in your database.
Into the DRM testing. Here is the actual thing. So I'm going to get my DRM playback ID. And then let's go to this BenQ one. And I'm just going to swap this out.
Yep.
Okay. So then coming back out here, we are going to go to the BenQ screen bar Halo. And this one fails.
Error.
Because
we need to, you remember those 3 wonderful, there's one last step. Those 3 wonderful keys that we passed to Mux player?
Yeah.
There's a 4th key you got to pass for DRM.
Okay.
And it is DRM_license. As the type. All you got to do is change the type.
Oh. That's it?
Yeah, it's just a 4th key. We love our jots around here.
Jouit. Okay, so we're going to get DRM license, and then...
And then you pass that to Mux player
As like
somehow.
DRM license?
DRM-token.
DRM-token.
Yeah.
And then that one we call DRM license.
Sweet. And if this worked, then our viewers will not be able to see the video. And if it didn't, then there will be an error. I wonder what the error is. What does your console say?
My console says nothing.
Mystifying.
Canceled. No data found for resource with given identifier.
I have the strangest feeling that we did this correctly and we're running up against Betabug.
It's also entirely possible that I was like doing a panic job of swapping out tokens that I got environments wrong.
Yeah, we could be missing a token as well.
Let me just double check really quick that I have the right one. So take this off screen again, get into my env.
Most users will have one environment and won't be trying to hide keys from their live stream viewers. So
yeah, it's like, you know, why not do it on hard mode? We're going to go in here, go to my signing keys, and I just want to double check that this one matches. My signing key doesn't, you know what? It's not showing me what the key is, which leads me to believe that, oh, I definitely have the wrong one. I don't know what I generated, but it's not this. Okay, so we're going to just replace that entirely. So that's my JWT signing key. I've got a token ID and secret that I generated, and then I'm going to come out here. And it still is erroring. Am I doing something wrong? Okay, let's bring... Oh my God, I almost showed all my keys just now. Okay.
No. I'm so sorry.
Oh my God, okay.
I've put you in a precarious position.
Okay, so we're fine. So now...
DRM-token, that's what you're passing to Mux player. Hey, what version of Mux player are you on?
What a wonderful question. Let's find out.
We released DRM into beta just about 2 weeks ago. So this is all real fresh. Yeah, let's give that an update. Oh, we got it. I bet this is it.
All right. I believe in us.
Mux player 2.8, I believe, is out.
npm install mux player.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, we need a new release for Mux
latest.
player because, oh my gosh, our incredible engineers. Actually implementing DRM is, in my opinion, the most painful thing upon the face of this earth. Did it work? Do you see the video, Jason? Because our live stream viewers do not, which I believe is the point.
I hear it, but I don't see it, and I don't know if. Well, I don't know what's on this video.
Oh, you think the video might just be white?
I don't know. I don't know what's in it. So,
or maybe because you're screen recording.
Is it because I'm screen recording?
I bet because because audio is not.
No
encrypted.
way. Okay, let me stop sharing my screen. And it came back. Oh! No way.
DRM is keeping you from sharing that video.
No, that's so dope. Okay, so it did in fact work. That's a huge pain in the ass, and I don't know that I like it.
But some people might want that. And I'm glad that we talked about it.
No, okay. So this is actually wonderful. So this did cool. Exactly this did shame there's no DRM for my keys. True. But no, this did exactly what we expected, because as soon as I stopped sharing my screen, the video showed up.
Oh, so cool.
So it is doing what it says on the tin. If I, for example, was a, I don't know, like corporate company that wanted to have internal training or like internal updates where I'm sharing data with the rest of the team or anything that would be sensitive, right? Then I want my team to be able to watch it and they're signed in. But if they're trying to screen record, if they're trying to like broadcast that to somebody on another channel, you know, like, and I don't know who would do this, but yeah, maybe a government thing, like internal, like, you know, corporate espionage kind of stuff. That makes sense. It makes sense that would be limited, right? So
yeah, and like it might.
I get it.
I mean, there's one more case too that I want to mention, and that's that like it's a real bummer. I don't know how worried you are about this, but I've heard some other creators talk about like how bummed they are that their videos show up on Udemy. And it's like, if you can throw barriers in front of people downloading your videos and posting them elsewhere, then like that might be worth the trouble. And that's up to you, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're a course creator,
Mm-hmm,
like actually, that's a really good point. Like if I create a course, I put a lot of work into that course, and I want you to have access to it, but I don't necessarily want it should be hard to share. It should be hard to like get for free because it's not a free thing.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so giving someone the ability to release a course that can't be screen shared, that can't be copied or downloaded, that that requires a valid license in order to view, that's a perfectly reasonable thing to do, I think. And I don't know, I dig that.
Yeah. Stream security is a trade-off between like implementation complexity, maintenance, and like user friction, and security. And like we've got a couple tools at Mux that you can use. You can add expirations, you can add refer stuff, you can add DRM, or you cannot. So I mean, it's kind of up to you to build it and secure it how you want, and use our tools to build something cool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, this is super cool stuff. And so that brings us to the end of our time. I think, and actually you gave me, like, originally I was thinking, well, look at DRM, but I'm not going to use it. But like, I'm working on a course for Astro. I probably will use it for that. Like, that's a very good reason to use it. But for the Learn with Jason site, I'll be leaning on the signed asset IDs because that feels like a good flow. I like being able to switch from private to public without any hassle. And really, if like people want to watch it together over a screen share, that's great. I love it when people do stuff together, especially when it's, if I can help bring people together for a minute, that's the goal. So where should people go if they want to learn more? I'm going to start by just throwing everybody to your Twitter one more time. So make sure you go and give Darius.
Yeah, follow me for my bad occasional web development takes, and like more than happy to answer a DM. Like we super want people to reach out to us to get started and everything like that. But if you're not bothering me on Twitter, like definitely check out our marketing website. I spend my day writing this. We have incredible designers, very proud of it, and it has good content. And really, we've got a really cool blog. We're talking about all the cool stuff that we're doing, especially around pricing. Like we want video to be accessible to as wide an array of developers as possible. And to do that, we're adding levers to our pricing. And then finally, if you're ready to get started, like hop into our docs. We try to make them as good as possible. If you don't like them, there's a feedback form at the very bottom that goes straight to our inbox. Dive in, start building. You can just plop a player in and go from there.
It is very nice to work with. And, I think somebody mentioned earlier that like for live streaming, it might get a little expensive. Like, depending on what you're doing, run through the pricing. I think one of the things that I thought was cool on the pricing is that you had an estimator that I thought was nice. Where was it?
Yeah, you're remembering our old pricing page. We've buried that estimator a little bit in docs. With the addition of levers, pricing is becoming more flexible, and to do that, we're kind of working on redesigning our calculator. So you'll find a pricing doc at the bottom of docs to walk you through it all.
A pricing doc at the bottom of docs.
There it is.
Understand estimating costs. So this is kind of a helpful way. Oh wow, this is like a whole spreadsheet.
I promise I'm working on a new calculator. It's gonna be super slick.
But depending on, like, I remember I ran the math for what it would cost me to run like Learn with Jason, and I'm looking at like the hosted versions, not the live versions. But I think like for me it was not getting into the price range where I felt like it wasn't absolutely worth what I was going to spend on it. And so because you get like for $10 a month was what I'm subscribed at right now. And it's going to take some effort before I get to breaking through the credits that are included with that.
Yeah.
And after that point, I'll run some math and I'll figure out where the right trade-offs are, because I do have the YouTube ID and I can always switch over to using the YouTube public ID when it's time for things to be public to limit the amount of bandwidth that I'm shipping, right? There are a lot of ways that you can choose to do this and manage things. It's really up to you, right? So anyways, with that being said, we're out of time. So, Darius, any final thoughts for everyone before we send you off into the sunset?
Video's cool. The web is pretty neat, and I'm glad that we got to do this.
I'm very glad that we got to do this as well. Chat, thank you all for hanging out. Thank you for not stealing all of my keys when I showed them to you. And One more shout out to our sponsors. We've had Netlify making this episode more accessible. We've had Vanessa from White Coat Captioning here doing the live captions. Thank you, Vanessa. And thanks again to Mux for hearing me complaining about all my problems and deciding to turn that into a sponsorship opportunity. So thanks for putting this
Our
episode
pleasure.
on. Make sure you go and check out the schedule because we've got a lot of good stuff coming up. In a week, I've got an episode that I'm trying to get it scheduled right now. I think it's going to be really good. I think you're going to enjoy it. Then we've got the next week, Matt Pocock. We're going to talk about TypeScript generics. I'm really excited about that. Then we've got Sarah Vieira. Then we've got Ryan Carniato. We're going to talk about some of the new stuff in Solid. It's going to be a killer August. Make sure you are marking your calendar. You can find everything on the site, on the schedule. We will see you all next time. Thank you so much. Take care, y'all.